Welcome back, wrestling WWE fans. In the sterile, quiet hum of a private hospital room, far from the roaring crowds and the glare of the spotlight, a war for a family's soul was ignited with a single, shocking message. This is not about championships or main events, this is about the blood that binds and the words that shatter, a real-life drama unfolding from a bedside, threatening to tear a dynasty apart forever. The air was thick with the scent of antiseptic and unspoken fear. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, lay not as a conquering hero, but as a man named Joe, facing a health crisis that had stripped away all the power and pageantry. His empire felt a million miles away, replaced by the cold, clinical reality of wires, monitors, and the terrifying uncertainty of his own body. His family, his real family, had been a constant, quiet presence. Their faces were etched with a grief not for a lost title, but for the well-being of their son, their brother. This was their scandal, their private nightmare, playing out behind closed doors, a world away from the staged betrayals of television. Please like, share and subscribe for more WWE content. Alright, we're halfway through, and things are about to take a serious turn. If you thought you knew where this was going, think again, this is where the real drama unfolds. Stay tuned, because the best is yet to come. Then, the message arrived. It wasn't a phone call, not a visit. It was a public video, slickly produced and broadcast to the world. And it was from The Rock, the people's champion, his cousin. The message was not one of concern, not of family solidarity. It was a declaration of war, a ruthless, calculated power grab aimed at the head of the table while he was too weak to sit at it. You have to imagine the moment that video played on the room's television. The disbelief that would have frozen the air. The slow dawning horror as Dwayne's words, filled with bravado and ambition, echoed in the space meant for healing. This was the most profound betrayal, not from a storyline rival, but from his own blood. The grief on the faces of his parents was palpable. This was a family breakdown of the highest order, playing out on a global stage. Their son was vulnerable, and instead of a united front, their famous nephew saw an opportunity. The real backstage dynamics of a legendary wrestling family were cracking open for all to see, and the view was ugly. Roman's reaction was not immediate. He absorbed the blow in silence, the beep of the heart monitor the only sound competing with the venom from the screen. You could see the shift in his eyes, from a patient's fatigue to a predator's cold fury. The man was down, but the chief was awakening. The emotional hook was set deep. This was no longer about a wrestling angle. It was about the violation of a fundamental trust. It was about kicking a man when he was literally at his most defenseless. The audience's investment shifted from fantasy to humanity, from wondering who would win to worrying about what this would do to a real man in a hospital bed. He reached for a phone, his movements slow and deliberate, charged with a terrifying intensity. The family in the room watched, holding their breath, knowing the response would not be a tweet or a casual comment. This would be a volley fired back from the front lines of his own personal battle. The video he recorded was raw, unproduced. The lighting was the cold fluorescence of the hospital. The backdrop was a plain wall. There was no music, no editing. This was as real as it gets. He spoke not in the booming cadence of the tribal chief, but in the low, measured, and deadly serious tone of a man who has been cut to his core. He spoke of family. He spoke of respect. He spoke of the sacred bond that The Rock had so casually set ablaze for entertainment and ambition. He didn't yell, he promised. Each word was a stone laid on the path to a war that would now be inevitable. He acknowledged his health, his vulnerability, and used it not as a weakness, but as the very reason this betrayal was so unforgivable. The response video exploded online not because of special effects, but because of its shocking authenticity. Fans weren't just watching a promo, they were witnessing a real man's heartbreak and rage. They were seeing the painful intersection of kayfabe and reality, and it was impossible to look away. Backstage in WWE, the reaction was a mixture of awe and anxiety. Superstars and producers alike understood the gravity of what was unfolding. This was nuclear-level storytelling, but it was rooted in such genuine emotion that it felt dangerous. There was a palpable sense that this was bigger than the company itself. The Rock's calculated gamble had backfired. He had sought to create a monster heel moment, but in targeting a man in a hospital, he had instead forged a babyface out of real-life sympathy and righteous anger. The audience's loyalty shifted instantly and powerfully to Roman, to Joe, the human being fighting a battle on two fronts. This feud is now stained with the truth. Every blow struck, every word spoken, will be viewed through the lens of this real-life health crisis and this very real familial betrayal. The stakes are no longer about a championship, they are about legacy, about honor, and about what it truly means to be the head of a table. The Bloodline story has forever changed. It is no longer a fictional saga of a wrestling faction. It is a Shakespearean tragedy about a family torn apart by ambition, pride, and a shocking lack of empathy during a time of crisis. The players are not just characters, they are people with a shared history and a now fractured future. As we watch this war unfold, remember what you felt in that moment. Remember the chilling silence of that hospital room response. Remember the look in his eyes. This is the power of professional wrestling when it touches the nerve of reality. It reminds us that behind the larger-than-life personas are human beings with real emotions, real families, and real pain. Let this be a lesson in loyalty and legacy. A true legacy is not built on how many times you main event WrestleMania, but on how you treat your family when they are at their lowest. It is built on respect, not exploitation. The greatest war is not for a title, but for the soul of a family. And that is a war worth watching, because in the end, it's the only one that truly matters.